Welcome back for another deep dive. We're diving into the making of Thor, the 2011 film.
Yeah.
You know how these work. You've seen the movie.
Right.
But we're going behind the scenes, exploring the creative choices that turned this Norse myth, really, into a huge blockbuster.
Yeah, it's interesting to revisit this one, actually. Back in 2011, Thor was a big risk for Marvel.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, Norse mythology wasn't exactly, mainstream, and Thor himself wasn't as well known as some other superheroes.
Like Iron Man.
Right, exactly. And that leads us right into, I think, one of the biggest risks, casting.
Chris Hemsworth.
Yes. Chris Hemsworth as Thor. He was practically unknown then.
He was.
And there were a lot of people who doubted he could pull it off.
They were skeptical, which is fair.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is that this wasn't just about finding an actor who, looked the part. This was about embodying a god.
Totally.
So Marvel had to find someone who could make this larger-than-life figure relatable, someone audiences could believe in.
And someone who could hold that hammer. And I think what's interesting is, Hemsworth, he put on like 20 pounds of muscle for the role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was huge. It wasn't just about looking the part. It was about grounding Thor. He had to seem more substantial, more real, especially in a world of humans.
Right.
And I think it's a detail that speaks volumes
Yeah.
about Marvel's whole approach to adapting these characters.
Absolutely. I mean, can you imagine anyone else's Thor now?
It's hard.
It's wild.
It really speaks to the impact of casting, doesn't it?
Okay.
Finding the right actor can really elevate a film.
It can make or break it, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of unforgettable performances, Tom Hiddleston as Loki.
Oh, come on. He was born to play that role.
Right, everyone thinks that. But he wasn't actually even considered for it at first.
No way.
Seriously. Hiddleston originally auditioned for Thor. Like he had bulked up, learned the lines, the whole thing.
Wow.
But, I guess fate had other plans.
Right.
He didn't get the part, but the casting directors saw something special.
Okay.
They were so blown away by his talent that they invited him back to try out for Loki.
I mean, and the rest is history, as they say. He completely stole the show.
He did.
But I'm curious, what was it about Hiddleston that made him a better Loki than Thor, do you think?
That's a good question. Maybe it was that mischievous glint in his eyes. He has this charisma that could be charming or cunning.
Right.
He can pull off both.
Totally. It's those quieter moments where you really see Hiddleston shine, I think.
Yes.
You see Loki's vulnerability.
Exactly.
You can feel the turmoil under the surface. And it makes me think about another interesting choice with this film. Kenneth Branagh, a Shakespearean director, right? At the helm of a superhero movie.
It's not the pairing you'd expect.
Right. It seemed strange at the time.
It did. But maybe that's what makes it so brilliant.
Yeah.
When you look closely, Branagh's influence is all over the film, particularly the dialogue.
There's a real weightiness to the words, even when they're just talking.
Exactly. Branagh elevated those characters. Thor wasn't just a warrior. He was a prince wrestling with destiny.
Right.
And Loki's schemes, they felt like Shakespearean plots,
Totally.
full of betrayal and intrigue.
Yes. It's what makes Thor so captivating. It's not just saving the universe. It's about family, duty, power struggles.
It's all there. Very Shakespearean themes.
Exactly. And it's not just the words, it's the whole look of the film, too, right?
Right.
It feels like Branagh brought that theatrical flair to Thor.
Oh, yeah.
The way Asgard looks, those wide shots, the costume.
Yeah, it's all very grand.
Very operatic.
It's true. It's a very deliberate style, and it could have been too much,
Right.
But Branagh balances it out with a surprising amount of realism,
Oh, totally.
especially in the fight scenes, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, even when Thor's fighting those frost giants, it doesn't feel cartoonish.
Right. There's weight to it.
It feels like those hits actually, connect.
Exactly. Branagh wasn't afraid to get down and dirty.
Yeah.
Show the grime, the sweat, even blood.
Right.
It makes the action way more visceral, more immediate. It's very different from what we see in a lot of superhero movies these days.
Oh, for sure. So much CGI now. And you know what else struck me about Thor? I thought Jane Foster was really refreshing.
Oh, yeah. What'd you like about her?
Well, in the comics, she's a nurse, but in the film, she's an astrophysicist.
That's a big change.
Right. And it was a smart move, I think, to get away from that whole damsel in distress thing.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And Natalie Portman, who played Jane, she was actually a big part of that decision. She wanted Jane to be more scientific.
Really?
Yeah, she wanted to portray a strong, capable woman.
I love that.
Yeah, someone who's an equal to Thor, not just a love interest.
And she really pulls it off. She's not on the sidelines at all. She's using her knowledge to understand Thor and his world.
Exactly.
Makes you wonder if Portman's take on the character, if it had a bigger influence on how female characters were written in the MCU.
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely possible. I mean, this was one of the earlier MCU films.
That's true.
So it could have paved the way for more complex female characters down the line.
I hope so. And, it makes you realize it's those little things, those seemingly small choices that can really make a difference.
Absolutely.
Like I was reading that the Foo Fighters song, Walk, the one that plays at the end.
Yeah.
That wasn't even planned for the film originally.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. It just ended up fitting Thor's journey so well.
It does. It's perfect.
Those lyrics about learning to walk again.
Yeah, it's about redemption, picking yourself up.
Which is exactly what Thor's arc is, right? He stumbles and falls but finds his way back.
Exactly. And it just shows how music can add so much to a scene.
Totally.
Even if it wasn't part of the plan at first.
Right. Those happy accidents.
You gotta love it when it happens.
They can make all the difference.
They really can.
It makes you think, right? How many other little choices came together to create this film?
Oh, tons. It's like, I don't know, a tapestry or something.
Yeah.
Every thread matters.
Right.
You notice the big picture, the big moments, but it's the little details that really make it special.
And with Thor, those details help ground this crazy world. Right. I mean, it's Asgard, it's gods and monsters.
Right.
But it still feels connected to, family, duty, finding your place.
Exactly. And that's what makes Thor so unique, I think, in the whole MCU. It blends these huge, epic things with these smaller human moments,
Totally. So for someone listening who's never thought about Thor like this, what's the one thing we want them to take away from all this?
That's a good question. I think it's that Thor is all about taking risks.
Okay.
Casting someone no one knew, bringing in a Shakespearean director.
Yeah.
It was a bold move.
It really was.
But it paid off. It created something really special.
Yeah.
And I think that's inspiring.
Absolutely. It reminds us that sometimes the best things come from trying something unexpected.
Exactly.
And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Thor. We've gone behind the scenes, looked at the casting, the directing, even the music. It's been a wild ride.
It has.
Yeah.
Who knew there was so much to say about Thor?
Right. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.